Hi, my name's Stuart Forster. I'm a travel journalist and the blogger behind Go Eat Do. If you like this video, please do subscribe. So why choose a road trip in Nova Scotia? I think for me, one of the first reasons is the hospitality of the people throughout the province. It's an easy place to spend time. It's very welcoming. And the hospitality means that people never seem to tire of answering questions and talking about things to do and see in the province. So it's easy to get information from local people. It's easy to get local tips on highlights to do in the vicinity of where you stay. I also found it really nice that people would recommend the best dishes and the best restaurants where to eat in their locality. And beyond that, I'm a keen photographer, and people would say, well, you know, if you want to take a nice shot, go down there, take shots. And people would share their passion for the province. And I think that's very important, because if you're in a place, you want to feel good. The second thing is there's lots to see. It's very scenic, and I really enjoyed being in Nova Scotia because of the maritime heritage and the fact there are many lighthouses to photograph, many great beaches. Even when I've been out of season in winter time, I found the beaches beautiful to walk on. You know, you get the Atlantic waves crashing onto the beach, you'd get lobster pots that had been washed up, you'd get driftwood, and being on the beach, despite it being cold in winter time, would be beautiful. Another key reason from my point of view for choosing a road trip in Nova Scotia is the province has lots to see. You've got on the South Shore, for example, lighthouses. That's the Lighthouse Route that runs along there. But as you scoot up along the coast, you join into the Evangeline Trail, and that runs through the Annapolis Valley. So there's chances there to stop off at vineyards. There's lots of orchards, and there are lots of wineries where you can actually eat and drink and enjoy really good food. And up on the northern tip of Cape Breton Island, you've got one of Canada's top driving trails, and that is absolutely gorgeous. You can get into Cape Breton Island National Park and see the scenery on the Cabot Trail, named after the famous explorer. What is the best route for a road trip in Nova Scotia? Well, that really depends on your interests and what you want to see. If you look at my blog post over on Go Eat Do, I outline what each of them entails. I think the Cabot Trail, that's really regarded as one of Canada's premier road trips, and the ruggedness of the coastal scenery there is one of its premier attractions. And you can also stop off along the way and take walks along trails. So that's really regarded as one of the best ones because of it's a great drive too. I think for people who really want to explore the maritime heritage of Nova Scotia, the traditional maritime heritage, the fishing villages, the lighthouses, well, the Lighthouse Trail, which is out west of Halifax along the South Shore, I think that's got to be a real key contender for a road trip. Ultimately though, the province isn't that massive, so what you can do is actually combine road trips and skirt around through Nova Scotia by combining road trips. And I think that is one of the key reasons why people can really get a lot out of making a road trip in Nova Scotia. What are the best places to visit on a road trip in Nova Scotia? That's a good question. It's a tough one to answer comprehensively because I wouldn't want to leave anywhere out that it warrants being visited. But places that jump out to me would be Lunenburg. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's within a relatively short drive of Halifax. It's an incredibly colourful and scenic small town. It was established in the 18th century by settlers who came over largely from what we now know as Germany, and there were Protestant settlers, and it's really interesting to walk around there. One of the things that I've enjoyed is taking a walking tour in Lunenburg, and there you can get to understand the grid layout and the heritage. Very scenic. It's got a strong maritime heritage, and you can see houses with an architectural feature called the Lunenburg Bump, which is a window in which the wives of the sea captains would sit, and the legend goes they would sit and watch and see the men coming back. Maybe it's a little bit romanticized, but it's a nice feature to walk around and see. Another place that I think is absolutely gorgeous is Peggy's Cove. It's a very popular place, popular on many tourist tours of the province. It's a beautiful fishing village. It's rustic in its feel. For me, keen photographer, it's got lots to photograph there, and I think I've spent quite a few times wandering around trying to get the best possible photos, both in season, in the summertime, and out of season. I actually really enjoyed going in February because it was very quiet. So I was there was frost, there was ice, and it was a little bit unusual because being there at that time of year, I pretty much had the place to myself. And in terms of the light and the photographs, it was absolutely gorgeous. Digby, which you can visit from the Evangeline Trail, that for me was incredibly memorable because I saw humpback whales only a matter of meters away from the rigid hardback inflatable boat that I took a tour on. So that for me is incredibly special because it was really the very first time in my life that I got so close to whales and seeing them coming up onto the surface of the sea and then dipping back down. It was a real, one of those moments where you think, wow, I've watched the David Attenborough documentaries for years and now I'm seeing it in real life. So that stands out for me. What's driving like in Nova Scotia? Relatively easy, and I think that's a great thing. As a foreign visitor to Canada, as a British visitor to Canada, driving on what we would term the wrong side of the road, it isn't really problematical because as soon as you get outside of the main city, the Halifax area, the roads are relatively quiet and there's no real pressure in terms of driving. People aren't getting too close. Drivers there tend to be very polite. One of the things that really struck me when I was in Halifax for the very first time was that drivers would actually pull up on the road when I was stood on the edge of the curb. I was actually just looking around at the scenery, but they're really polite there. They actually do that so people can cross the road without having to go at the crossing. And I think that translates by and large to the driving throughout the province. People tend to be, it's not an aggressive place in terms of its driving, so getting about is easy. There's no stress. There are plenty of places to stop off along the way to enjoy the scenery, so it's possible to break the drive. It's not one of those places where you think, oh, I wish I'd turned off and could take a look at that. There are plenty of places to stop off and enjoy the scenery. I think that's important if you want to make a driving holiday because it makes it fun. There are plenty of cafes, restaurants and independent businesses around the province where you can pull in and enjoy a bite to eat or a drink to break up the journey too. And all told, the roads are just pleasant to drive, and there's plenty along the way to make the road trip interesting. What are the top 3 things you must take on a road trip? I've been asked. Well, it's a good question, and I would say a camera, definitely, because if you're in a place, you definitely want to have a camera to record the highlights that you see along the way. Obviously, a lot of people do that on the mobile phone now, shoot videos, smartphone photography, so that's fair enough. As somebody who's got incredibly fair skin, I've got to say, pack the sun cream, always pack the sun cream. I would never want to be on a road trip without it. And I think the other thing is Nova Scotia's weather can be variable. It's a coastal area, it's a maritime area. Inevitably, when you're in that kind of place, you're going to get changeable weather. So pack sensibly.